Hey, what's up? So, me and a female Patreon supporter of mine had a really cool, extensive conversation as part of my monthly Google Hangout thing that I do with my Patreon supporters. We had a really good conversation about catcalling, street harassment, traditional chivalry, masculinity, femininity, and we got really deep. And I thought it was a great conversation, and I really think that you guys would find it very interesting. So I just want to introduce that real quick. I hope you guys enjoy it. And before I let you go, be sure to check out the brand new, incredible Grab Them by the Pussycat t-shirts. An instant classic. Grab Them by the Pussycat t-shirts. I'll put a link below. Get it now. Every time she goes out almost, there's always some drunken freak lying on the side of the street, trying to reach out and say shit. So it's weird. It is a problem. It does get to a point where it's so bad in some cases that the women have to fend these guys off. It gets ridiculous. But then again, I definitely do. We have to be careful on what we mean by catcalling, what we mean by street harassment. There is the one extreme, which is the drunken weirdo, screaming words out at a woman. That's ridiculous, and that's crazy, and that's annoying, and that's disgusting. But then if you look at that viral video of the girl walking in New York City for 10 hours, on the undercover video, a lot of those dudes were just saying, hey, good morning. Hey, how you doing? And some of these guys looked like they actually were trying to get laid. It wasn't just shouting things in a car while driving by. It was a legitimate effort to talk to the girl. So going back to what you said about the pressure that it puts on men, I mean, men historically have always had the initiator role in the dating game. They're the ones expected to break the ice. They're the ones expected to initiate. So there's pros and cons to both sides of the dating game. For men, the benefits of being, I like to call it the active role. Men have the active role in the dating game. Women have the passive role in the dating game. On average, in general, the benefits of the active role for men is that you're rarely going to get approached by women you don't like, because women aren't doing a lot of approaching. Being approached by people you don't like, you don't have to worry about creepy women around every corner trying to approach you.
Dude, some women are like that though.
Oh yeah. Don't get me wrong.
Fat,
There are
drunks and shit. Hey, so shit.
I'm sure there's some women like that, but I wonder if it's mostly men that do shit like that, or if it's 50-50. The stereotype, the impression I have, is that men are the ones that are more likely to do shit like that. But I could be wrong.
Right.
But
right. I think that's accurate. On a general level, I think everybody sort of observes that role to be kind of what men do.
Yes, I agree completely. And I think that's a result of the fact that men have the initiator role. They have the active role in the dating game. But there's downsides to the active role. The downside to the active role is that you have to risk getting rejected. You have to risk being called a creeper or a street harasser. You have to risk being shamed by, some of these girls, they take pictures with men who approach them on the street, and then they post the pictures to a database to shame the men.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's
so there's pros and cons to being a male having the active role in the dating game. But there's pros and cons for women too. Yes, there's downsides to being a woman in the dating game. You have to fend off all the men you don't like. Sometimes you're going to be hit on by creepy, aggressive men. You have to deal with the street harassment and all that stuff. Yes, there's downsides. But let's not pretend that there aren't some upsides. I mean, there are upsides to having the passive role in the dating game.
But I do want to tell you a story which was funny.
Yeah.
I was working so by all this men, and I'm oh great, I'm in a full man environment, and this is gonna get weird. And I was expecting the worst. You know what happened? The guys, all they did was smile at me. One guy came up to me and was like, free donuts. You want some donuts? I'm like, yes, I do. And I had some fucking free donuts, but it was awesome. I was like, wow, everybody's being so nice to me, picking things up for me, and like, and instead of being in an office environment around 20 different passive aggressive women judging me like 24/7, it was like really relaxing. So
you're saying you basically got to experience the benefits of like a very chivalrous environment.
yeah, and it was so cool. I was like so amazed. Like there was this Gavin McGinnis episode of like fucking this. I don't know if you saw the one where there was this fat white British guy singing about feminism and that, you know, it's hard being a woman and all this kind of stuff, and like guys grabbing your butts and all this kind of shit. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't think that happens anymore.
It's weird. It's like I kind of see why some women don't like that sort of chivalrous era. Because on one level, it is kind of nice being treated like a fucking princess by like men.
Yeah.
You know, holding the door open for you. Here's a free donut. Here, let me pick that up for you. It's too heavy. Like it's probably nice in some ways, but it's also debilitating in other ways. I think sometimes it softens a woman. It makes her so dependent on men that she can't exercise her own direction in life, her own free will, because she needs the permission or help from men for everything she fucking does. So it's a balance.
That's very true.
Yeah, I do think on average women, a lot, I can't speak for all women, but I guess on average I do think women are more inclined to prefer a sort of chivalrous environment, but I do think that they also need a degree of independent, you know, like free will, like control over their own destiny. It's tough. It's an interesting balance, and I guess each woman has to figure it out for herself. And if you're a sort of embittered feminist who hates all men and hates chivalry and exclusively wants
sees it as oppression. Yeah.
Sees it as oppression, sees it as annoying when men are trying to hit on her and open her door. If she just wants 100% self-direction and control over her destiny, then she must despise what men are doing. But I would argue that feminists become feminists not because it's the enlightened choice or the self-actualizing choice. I would argue they become feminists out of bitterness, fear, brainwashing from their youth, bad experiences from the past with some men. So I don't think being bitter like that and closing yourself off as a woman is the most empowering thing for a woman to do. That's why I say it all the time. Like, I don't think feminism is good for women. I've even said that, you know, raising feminist daughters is child abuse. I mean, it's not like you can't encourage your daughter to, you know, be empowered, but you also can't shame her if she still has those feminine inclinations, you know, to be submissive to a man, which is very natural and it's very normal.
So why I brought up Ronda Rousey is because us from Holly Holmes, she was getting an interview and she's like, yeah, you know, like I just wanted to be with my man and I just wanted to like cook him stuff and have his babies and just like settle down. Like people were like, what the fuck? Like, but it's just there's something that's actually really fulfilling by helping and serving somebody. Like it feels good to do that. And so there's really nothing wrong. There's just this confusion with like people can't separate. Like in America, you want to do those things for people. In the Middle East, you have to do those things for people, and they can't see the difference, that they're not the same.
That's really interesting. It's so true what you said about serving people. And I've said it before, everybody serves somebody. Like, I mean, right now, this is a mutual exchange of value. I'm serving you. You're a Patreon supporter, and I'm serving you with this time. Like, everybody serves everybody. If you own a business, you have to serve your customers. Everybody serves everybody. The question is, do you want to engage in the servitude? And whereas men historically have focused on,
getting empowerment through getting wealth and resourcefulness and building businesses and empires. Women historically have gained their servitude through serving men, which creates children, and the man reimburses her by taking care of her. A totally mutual thing, totally natural thing, and it's compatible with our biology because men are structurally different than women, so it makes sense that we would pursue and seek different things. So it is ridiculous that serving men has been deemed outdated and shameful, and I really think that could be insanely damaging to people when they're spoon-fed this feminist bullshit. So I'm just, every time I see a woman who seems to have a bit too much of an attitude, a bit too sassy, I've had experiences where, somebody has to put them in their place. Because it's almost like there's so many yes men in the world. There's so many men who see a woman with an attitude, a woman who has this sort of feminist bitterness towards men and thinks fuck all men. A lot of these men are just so afraid of standing up to her that they just enable her even further. And it's stunning. It's happened to me so many times where these women will come up to me with an attitude and I don't stand for it, and it's crazy how quickly their little ego shatters. It crumbles so fast in an instant, just by saying one sentence that kind of pushes back on that ego of theirs. Their whole fucking feminist brainwashing shatters, and it's I feel bad almost. Like, it's happened to me before where I'll tell something to some girl who's like really roided up on feminism, and she shatters. and then
did you diss her or something like that?
I basically dissed her because she was very arrogant, and she would kind of boss people around, and she had kind of bossed me around in the past. Nothing too aggressive, but she's a sassy woman who goes around fucking with people. So I didn't really make much of it. Okay, whatever. But she'd been kind of sassy and pushy with me. So one day she asked me for a favor, kind of an annoying favor, but she just thought that I was going to be like every other dude, and I was just going to scramble around and do it for her and give it back to her, which, by the way, would also put me into the friend zone, which is just another reason why I fucking hate this shit. Not necessarily because I liked her, but because it feels like disrespectful and condescending to just put a guy who's kind to you into a little box called the friend zone, where you don't respect him enough because he's not enough of a dick to you. So the moment I was a dick to her, and I said what I said to her, she suddenly was treating me with a lot more respect, which of course confirms everything that I've ever said about female psychology and masculine feminine dynamics. So
yeah, because that's exactly what a woman wants in a guy. Like, when you were talking about like men who don't know what to do to stand up to women who are like this, it's like that instantly made me go, ew, gross. Like, that, I think that really has to do with like, our history as humans, like, just that women seek out, and like that is like what's going to help them have a better life. And so feminists, I still don't even think they want subservient men. I really don't. I think they just don't like men in general.
You look at like male feminists, for example, time and time again, the male feminists get caught sexually harassing their feminist, friends at the workplace. And the female feminists they're always so shocked. I can't believe it. I can't believe this guy would have a sex drive and try to initiate himself onto me. It's just, I don't even know how they become so delusional. Sometimes I wonder if it's like overprotective dads. I think because there are male feminist fathers, and if you're a male feminist and you're a male feminist father and you have a daughter, I mean, you're probably going to want to brainwash her to be a feminist too. And that to me is very dangerous and very unhealthy. I don't think you should do that to little girls just because you, as a male feminist, don't like all those other men out there who embrace their masculinity and aren't ashamed of it and try to assert themselves confidently in the world. But these male feminists who are depressed and who feel like they've failed in life as men, the last thing they'll ever want is for daddy's little girl to date a man, or to date the kind of man that daddy could never be. So who knows the kind of mind games a male feminist father subconsciously plays on their daughter over many years of raising them up into women. And I think it wouldn't surprise me if there's probably an army of bitter women being raised by male feminist fathers out there that just hate men at a fundamental level and don't even know why, because they were brainwashed from an early age.
And we were on a really tight budget. And I was not making any money for myself, so I had to depend on my partner. And it was a bit of a struggle because it'd be like, I wanted to get something, or I wanted to do something to maybe make the house prettier, or because that's where I was like for most of the day. So I wanted to like do something to like be creative and stuff like that. And so I would talk to him when he was like organized, like on a weekly basis. We'd go over our budget and stuff, and I'd say, hey, what would be cool if we could have this, or I need some hand sanitizer because of this. And then it'd be like, well, can't you just wash your hands? Or like, that's not in our budget. And so anything that I particularly wanted, he was the arbiter of whether that was necessary or not. And that just really irritated me because I was like, fine, but it's important to me. It might not be important to you, but it's important to me. And so we just had, men and women, I think sometimes just have a different idea of what's important and what's not important. Like, we need to have like conditioner without parabens and sulfates and like buy shampoo at a dollar store,
Yes.
And so some things just like are not fully understood on either end. And so that got me really angry. And I was like, I am not going to put myself in this position again. I'm going to have a job and I'm going to make money for myself so I can get what I want to get. And so...
Well, here's a question.
Yeah.
Here's a question. Would you say that the problem there was being dependent on a man, or maybe the problem was being dependent on the wrong man? Maybe just as a thought experiment, maybe you wouldn't have to have chosen the, I guess if you want to call it the feminist route, whatever you want to call it, of getting a job and making your own income. Maybe instead of doing that, if you'd found a dude who was more compatible with you and who respected your interest more, maybe the right man would have facilitated your needs without being such an idiot and not being open-minded to what you prefer. Do you think that, and I'm just asking you as a woman, your personal experience, not because I think it should be one way or the other, but what do you think? What do you think would have been maybe a more effective or the better holistic thing to do? Get a job and try to become a little bit financially independent, or do you think if you found the better man, maybe vetted him more, maybe you wouldn't have even been in that situation to begin with? Just a thought experiment.
Right. Well, I do like what you're saying, that it's more about the situation than it is about working. I agree that it's more about us not being in agreement with something that could have worked out.
Yeah.
So I think you're right there. I think that's the right target. That's the right thing to look at, rather than fuck you, I'm going to go work as the ultimate solution and the ultimate reason behind everything. That isn't the reason. The reason is we couldn't.
I totally empathize. I totally empathize with women who are stuck in shitty marriages with some deadbeat loser. Again, one of my friends, her mother was in a relationship with a guy who was complete trash. Like, he was a drunk. He wouldn't do anything. He would just sit at home and rot all day. He was like a hoarder, like basically just a crappy person. And the wife, she had more ambitions. She wanted to be more lively. She didn't want to be stuck, in a nasty, smelly house all day. She's just a more upbeat, lively person. And honestly, like, there are situations for sure where, a woman could be restrained in terms of what makes her happy because of the man that she's dependent on. So, so that it goes back to like that question, that crossroads. Do you just become an independent, empowered woman and try to make some income for yourself so you're free to do what you want? Or do you just find a better, more compatible man? I'm not even suggesting either or, because I think that would just
I know you're not.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I said I know you're not. It's just sort of like a thought experiment. I get that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that would be like that would just be arrogant as fuck of me to like, you should do this and you should do that and like that's just ridiculous.
Yeah, but I think you're bringing it to light totally that's not the right thing to look at. Of like, every woman should empower themselves, and if they're not empowered. It's like, oh, you just didn't work it out with your partner correctly.
What's crazy about this topic is, well, then it's this theory that it's kind of hard to introduce this topic without sounding sexist for the first 30-40 seconds, but
I don't give a shit. It's okay.
Yeah, it's this idea that and it's not even just on women. It's not like it's just women's fault. I think men and women they both could feed into the collapse of the ideal masculine and feminine relationship model that we're talking about here. But, so you could say, oh, well, maybe the problem isn't men. Maybe the problem is women. Maybe women aren't, vetting men well enough. Maybe if women were less slutty and they didn't fuck around as much, maybe they wouldn't be thinking so short term. Maybe if they were thinking long term, they would only be with good men. And then you start to wonder, well, has this created an environment? Because I start thinking about, okay, if a woman says men are shit, so I'm going to go out and get a job, but then a moment ago I was saying, well, what if maybe the better thing to do, instead of a woman getting a job, is for the woman to just find another better man and continue to serve him? And then I thought to myself, well, look at all the women in the workplace. Like, who's going to take these jobs with all these women not working these jobs? The economy would come to a halt. What is this naive, idyllic world you're talking about, Chris? This could never work out. But then I think, but what about the millions and millions of men all across the world right now that spend the majority of their week in their basement, their mom's basement, playing video games all day? And I wonder sometimes if maybe this epidemic of like men sort of retreating from society.
I know.
Yeah, I wonder if sometimes them retreating from society is because they're sort of in competition with women in the marketplace. And I wonder what would happen if women returned to a more traditional model where they were just focused on serving a man. If that would free up a massive chunk of the economy to get these men out of the fucking basement and at least offering some tangible value.
I don't think they're in their basement because they can't find a job. I think they want to be there because it's they don't like reality.
I agree completely. I agree completely. Like, don't get me wrong, I wasn't trying to say there that, like, you know, women fucked it all up because, you know, I wasn't trying to say that. Like, I'm trying to find the chicken or the egg, and I don't think it's, oh, women caused it and then men are now suffering. I think it's probably both. Men and women make certain, but I am considering how the decisions of women and the decisions of men, both together, can help perpetuate conditions that I don't think are ideal. I don't think. I think a lot of women are not happy working a 9 to 5 job, and I think a lot of men aren't truly happy sitting in their basements playing video games all day.
No,
like you
no,
might be
it's
happy
such
on the
wasted
surface.
potential.
You might tell yourself that you're happy. The woman at her job might say, "I'm an empowered woman. Yeah, I'm like Hillary Clinton. I'm a feminist now, and I love having my money, and I love going to the mall and buying purses every week." Like you might say that, but are you truly happy? And a guy in his basement playing video games, yeah, I conquered the galaxy and I saved the princess. Woo, so great. You might feel happy, but are you deeply, truly happy? And
right.
When you take those two things, is there a way for both of these groups to find true happiness by returning to the masculine feminine model? That's basically what I'm saying.
Yeah, I honestly, I have to also leave in about 5 minutes, but
No problem.
I see more of women as the chicken, and I know, whatever, this whole feminist thing doesn't see that, but really, we are the one that raise men. We are the ones that, they're supposed to be the ones that care for and foster the child's values. Not just women, but predominantly we're the caretakers. So it really starts with us. We and people are so influenced by how they're raised. Like that really determines, I think, a huge course in their direction. Unless it's negative, they're abused or something, then they can choose not to fall into that. But
I have a little theory. I think short-term, shallow narcissism could be what caused this downfall between men and women. And a moment ago you said that you think women might be the primary cause. Is that what you're saying? Like they're probably, because they're the caregivers and the raisers of children, that maybe they're the primary cause of this downfall? Well, I like to think it's 50-50. Like I like to think it's 50% men's fault, 50% women's fault. And I feel like, okay, so where did this start? You have women who are at home decades ago in a very traditional American nuclear family structure. Man and woman serves the man goes out, makes money. But when did women become dissatisfied? Maybe men kind of started it. Maybe when the man is out and about and he's out in the world and he can leave the house whenever he wants and he has all this freedom, maybe he started thinking he was getting tired of his woman, the same woman every night, which would be shallow, short-term thinking. And he decided he wanted to cheat on his wife while he was out there and he can do it in a car, he could do it anywhere. He had so many places to cheat on his wife without the wife knowing, whereas the wife was probably more limited on the places that she can go out and do these things. I know you got to go, so I'm gonna wrap this up real quick. But so maybe men kind of started it, and the reason a man would ever cheat on his wife is probably because of short-term, shallow thinking. He's not thinking about the mother who's raising his child long-term for the generations to come. He's thinking about, I just want to fuck the girl with the makeup and the slim body, and I want to get a quick fuck in. Like a quick fuck is shallow, short-term. Having sex with a woman who is going to be the mother of your children and raise good people for generations to come, that is long-term. So maybe as men became shallow, women felt like these guys are not loyal to me. My husband's not loyal to me, so maybe I need to fucking find a way to get out of here. Why am I going to sit at home while he's out partying? I'm going to be shallow too. So I'm going to try to get financial freedom. I'm going to try to be independent so I can go fuck random alpha males at the bar. Like, so I feel like sometimes it could be like collectively men and women have reached a point where we're in a kind of a society, a time right now where we kind of value short-term, shallow, fleeting, narcissistic satisfaction.
fight back against YouTube censorship by supporting me on Patreon. You'll also get access to exclusive, never-before-seen videos and other perks like monthly Google Hangouts with me, free books and t-shirts, and more.